Do you want to give a quick intro to yourself and your business, Distill Cloud?
Yeah, so my name's Parnell. I've been a software engineer and in the software industry about 16 years. I've worked at big companies, small companies. I worked at a startup prior that got bought. I was like the first engineer. And about 3 years ago, I co-founded a company with the CTO of the prior startup that I was at. We essentially analyze sales and customer support calls to look for product insights that companies are essentially missing out on, missed opportunities. Basically, our thesis is that companies spend a lot of time building things that their customers don't want or implementing features incorrectly. So what you end up happening is an engineering team that spent the last 4 or 5 months building something, shipping something that nobody asked for or not many users asked for, and the big demoralization hit that comes with that kind of activity, along with a missed opportunity of going to market properly.
Yeah, makes sense. And recollecting, what problem first sparked the idea for the business then?
So I worked at a couple different prior companies, and I worked on some of the B2B side, and we would have sales teams, customer support teams. They would talk to our customers a lot in sales calls, and they often knew what people actually wanted, what people were asking for. But it was the sales team's job just to sell the existing product, get people on board, get them in the door, not really focus on product growth. Product growth in a company is often led either by a user research team or a product manager or a CPO, but oftentimes the actual feedback that customers give don't make it past the sales team all the way. Or if it does, often the people who make product decisions are naturally biased. So, for example, if your largest customer asks for single sign-on, that may be representative of a $1 million deal, but the rest of your customers, maybe you have $100,000 a year customer, they don't care about single sign-on. A lot of times the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Oh, our big client wants single sign-on. We'll spend months implementing single sign-on. You build it, none of the other customers want to use it. Maybe your top customer wants to use it, but their engineering teams are actually not ready. Their IT teams are not ready to even implement single sign-on on their half. So you just spent 4 or 5 months building a feature that no one is using. I saw that quite a bit at various companies. I actually posted on LinkedIn recently asking people if they had similar experience to me, and many stories from many people. Some of them are wild. Hey, we got mandated to build this thing. Nobody thought it was a good idea, but we still built it anyway because it came from the CPO, and that was it. Oftentimes, even if engineers know that a feature is not going to pan out, they don't have the evidence to push back onto the C-suite executives. So what we're trying to do is have AI analyze sales calls, customer support calls, interactions with customers, really identify what people want and democratize that information so that a product manager can go into the platform and pull up a bunch of evidence together and say, hey, I know you're my boss, you're the CPO, whoever. What you're asking for is a terrible idea. Here's actual package of information I've put together to provide to you on an actual direction or a roadmap of where to go. Sometimes CEOs often just make decisions based on their buddy who is a client that wants something, the golf course idea. And all these are like very valid ideas. You work from your gut, and as a co-founder, I really love working based on my own gut and what to do. But once you have more and more clients, once your business really starts to grow a lot, you want to focus on exactly what your existing customers are asking for, or potential customers. So we don't just look at people's existing customers. We can look at sales calls across all kinds of deal stages to determine or to provide insights as to what people are asking for, or even just common questions. So if you're in a particular industry where you need a certain type of machine, let's just say 3D printers as like a basic example. It's like, oh, our 3D printers are not resin based, is that okay? And if like 1,000 people are asking that question, if your answer every time is no, it's like maybe you should be supporting those printers because you're getting that question a lot. Or maybe you do, but your actual go-to-market strategy doesn't really clarify that too much. Separately, people who are existing customers, maybe they say, oh, where can I manage my users? You have a big enterprise. Where can I manage my users of various groups? It may be buried in a menu somewhere, 4 or 5 clicks in. Maybe you have features that customers could use today. They don't realize that they could use it, but they may churn thinking that you don't have it.
Yeah, all makes sense. Brilliant. And you guys operating for a while now. So how does your current MVP look compared to the initial one?
Yeah, so when we first got started, we were just about grabbing the data, analyzing it, and we started before even LLMs really took off. So it was very interesting because we also made very conscious changes to our code base to really leverage LLMs over time. So it's really interesting how the very beginning MVPs didn't even use large language models at all. It used all kinds of other things, and then all of a sudden we have this big kind of unlock. But right now where we're at, we have a fully working platform. We have some businesses that are using us to look at their own data. People can pull in integrations. For example, I want to pull in Gong, which is a popular sales tool, or you can think of Zoom. I want to connect my Zoom account. I want to connect my Salesforce account. I want to be able to slice the insights that you're giving me by deal stage. So I want to see, what people were asking for when they churned, or what people were asking for when I couldn't sign a deal, or what people are asking for who are maybe like customers I'm concerned about. And people often make special labels inside of Salesforce to earmark certain types of customers, and being able to not only just access the insights we have, but be able to really find what people are asking for. Beyond that, our platform allows you to essentially group all of these things together as evidence into what kind of looks like a Pinterest board, like a social sharing of a project board, and then just be able to surface that to C-suites or anyone in your company that is essentially the decision maker for product direction.
Yeah, perfect. And since founded the business, what's been the biggest oh shit moment, and how did you handle it?
So there's two. One was just ChatGPT coming out, because at first I was like, oh man, are we about to just be disrupted by ChatGPT? Because overnight, a lot of AI companies were just bankrupt essentially. But ChatGPT came out, and there was just whole categories of startups, especially in Boston, that just were irrelevant overnight. Luckily, when we were looking at what ChatGPT does and will continue to kind of do, it doesn't really fit into necessarily a replacement for us, because we not only handle pulling out transcripts and pulling out speakers and identifying speakers to who they are in Salesforce and things like that, but really analyzing different tiers of types of product insights. And the one thing that I think we do particularly well is kind of gathering stuff across all the meetings. A lot of AI tools that analyze audio and video, they go down into individual meetings. They say, oh, here's notes from this meeting, here's takeaways from this meeting, and then here's takeaways from this other meeting. They don't look horizontal. And I think that's also one of the big differentiators or big differences between us and just like note-taking AI tools. I think the other like big like oh crap moment was just figuring out hiring the in the age of AI, hiring people that have the right mentality to iterate and improve on the output of data, especially when the output is not um, it it's not predictable all the time, because
Yeah.
LLMs are inherently slightly unpredictable, and really finding the right people that can just have the right mentality to keep iterating and improving upon the output of data. I think a lot of the engineers I find are all about just improving code base, improving the code, not really thinking about improving the just quality of insights. It's not just about getting them into a database. It's actually getting the quality bar very, very high and reducing. And that I think has been a bit tricky to find people who have a mentality like that.
So when you have been hiring, is that the kind of the hardest skill, mindset, call it what you will, that you've had to find, or have you kind of struggled in other areas as well?
I think hiring has definitely been a struggle. A lot of data analysts that have been around for a long time, they really focus on analyzing a company's data and not really providing analysis as a platform. Their mentality shift is just kind of different. They're data analysts. And then a lot of engineers that I talk to, especially ones that have worked at bigger companies anyway, they don't really think too much of like a feature is this evolving, continual improvement thing. They think of it as like you build one feature, then you go build the other one, and then you bring them together as like a product or whatever. But with the kind of AI is constantly evolving, and data is constantly evolving and changing. And how can we keep going back and benchmarking the changes that we're making and know that we're always improving through like benchmarking and things like that? I think benchmarking data has been particularly like tricky as new models are being adopted, because we have seen regressions even going from an older version of a model to a newer one that is just kind of air quote better, but maybe the way we're interacting with it, the older one is technically better, but the newer one has more capability, so we want to move. But you can't just cut like a new version and hope the quality remains the same.
Yeah, makes sense. And what's the one or what's a lesson that you've learned through building the business that you haven't already kind of learned from a textbook?
I think there's actually there's a couple big lessons. One was a really big like punch to the gut in a way. I've worked from home for a really long time, even before COVID, and I had this mentality, and I think it came more from working at bigger companies, but it was like, you can be peak efficient always working from home, but what we've kind of found is when we at least meet once in a great while in person, we'll go down to Boston and all meet together. Sometimes just a lot more gets done being in front of a whiteboard, and there's no exact replacement for in person. And then there's also no exact replacement for working from home, because we do see a lot of efficiencies being able to work from home, not have to deal with commute every day. I think that's been one of the biggest shockers for me. And then I think the other one is when you're talking in a B2B environment, which in a previous startup we're also B2B, so it was less of a shock. But compliance and security is difficult. And then we have a lot more integrations with this startup, so being able to convince IT teams that we are very secure, that they can trust us with their data, that we do take security. That has always been tough, because the larger the company, the more involved the security team wants to be, and it makes the sales cycle very long. And that is pretty tough when the sales cycle is extremely long, just to get people to try it.
Yeah. And how often do you guys get together in Boston nowadays?
Once every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll go
Okay.
down for one long day, one long session. Yeah, so sometimes more, sometimes less, but I think we kind of come in on 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty regular occurrence then.
Yeah, it it's definitely been a bigger improvement than I realized. We have had employees overseas, and obviously they didn't necessarily participate, or we got a conference room where they could call in, and that still works very well. I'm not an advocate for like always working in an office or not. I am very remote first person myself. It's up to the company and the culture and things like that. But yeah, I think that was a big shock to me, how much more we could get done by going in once in a while and being present together.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of Boston, what do you see as the main advantages or frustrations in terms of building out a startup here versus, West Coast maybe or New York?
Yeah, so luckily we have largely funded ourselves. The one thing I do think Boston has, I've talked to a lot of VCs and angel investors, and everyone here is very pragmatic. They're not very pie in the sky about just some hot new technology. They won't just invest in you because you're an AI startup, or like what prior to that was Web3 or blockchain or this or that. I I I feel like a lot of things on the West Coast are much more driven by that kind of vibe. I think Boston, you have to really prove value to get people to take notice of you, um, which is like a pro and a con. But
Mm,
I I find that the ability to find young talent is really great in Boston. There's so many great universities that all have people who want to do internships that are really fantastic, really smart kids. Getting those people engaged in your organization, I think, is super easy here, maybe compared to a lot of other places.
yeah, yeah, makes sense. And then, is there any way that you feel the Boston startup community can better support or help, early stage founders?
So I feel like we maybe don't have enough in-person meetup events. When I went to Philadelphia, I noticed there was a lot of startup co-founders getting together all the time, chit-chatting a lot more. Everyone seems a lot more heads down, a bit more in about themselves in Boston, I think. The one thing I did notice a lot though when I worked at even some bigger companies in the area was people who live in Boston, at least what I've seen, tend to buy products that are also here in Boston. Um, for example, I remember when I was at CarGurus, we wanted to use LogRocket for a little while, and LogRocket's a New York company, but they have a big office here in Boston, and that was a big selling point. I think they're a New York company. But either way, they had an office in Boston. So
Mm,
um, I think people know the companies in the area like Wayfair and things like that, and they buy from those companies in particular. So just kind of feel a bit more of a community here in that sort of respect.
yeah, yeah, which is obviously a good thing. And reflecting, what do you think is the best piece of advice you've ever received from a fellow founder, stroke entrepreneur?
I think the best piece was build what you would want, or build the thing that you really care about, or that you think is you would buy, and not just a really good idea, because you're going to be passionate in whatever you're
Mm,
building. This idea that we've had is almost 7 years in the making. It's a tool I always wish I had at a lot of businesses. In a way, we're making our own market. We're not really comparable to a particular other platform. But when I go talk to other product owners or engineers, they immediately get why we're doing what we're doing, because they have lived in the same thing I have lived. And I have met founders that have heard of cool ideas, but they in the past necessarily wouldn't have been the buyer. They just think it's like the next big thing or whatever. And the motivations are just like harder in that respect. I would say just build the thing that you would care about and that you would want, and people will come.
Yep. Yeah, good advice. So one more final question then, Tommy. How do you personally stay sane, motivated, etc., when it comes to dealing with the highs and lows of building your own startup?
Oh, yeah. There are the startup world is a lot of high highs and a lot of low lows, let me tell you. And then we're B2B, and I feel like B2B is in particularly low lows, because you can be working on a sales cycle for 2 or 3 months and the deal falls through, and you want to just go punch a wall. On my free time, I go axe throwing. I do it competitively. I was at the World Tournament earlier this year in Wisconsin, and it's a way to get away from the keyboard. So I think telling people to have a hobby that does not use a computer screen, if your day job is at a computer 24/7, is the way to go. You get to meet some cool people and get cool ideas of other things you could build, and get motivated on other side projects too. But also, when you've had a really bad day, you can just leave your computer at home and go do something. As far as the high highs, I mean, when we net a big customer, or we do something really big, we ship anything really big, I do like to stop and celebrate. But for me, it's almost like I get so much excitement, I want to go try to build the next thing, because I want to use that energy to then go and focus on building the next thing while it's still there. Because if all of a sudden we got a big customer and I know that they're going to want another feature, I'm going to use that excitement to go push myself and build the very next thing right away.
Yeah, makes sense. So celebrate those wins and step away from the computer.
Yep.
Cool. Fantastic. Well, listen, Tommy, thanks very much for joining today. That was really interesting to have you on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It was great. Thank you for having me on.